Remember in Minneapolis when that happened, when the bridge totally gave way and people, they inspected it for months. What the heck happened? And the left, and they don't have to attribute, they don't have to say anything. They don't have to explain their reasoning why they can just say it and do whatever the hell they want and just, prance along thinking, oh, I can just say this. This is okay. It's because of our aging infrastructure and Republicans and conservatives who want to cut back on the transportation budget that this bridge collapsed. Now, this was proven to not be true, but what did Barack Obama say? Give it to me, producer.
Remember when that bridge in Minnesota collapsed with all those people on it?
Yeah.
And there was a big hue and cry. How can this happen in America?
How? How, Barack?
The National Society of Engineers, they've looked around and they give us a D when it comes to infrastructure. Our roads, our bridges, our sewer systems.
Pause. Okay, thank you. Here's the deal. He just quoted a non-existent body, the National Association of Engineers. Well, they might exist, but that wasn't what it. That wasn't the group that investigated this bridge collapse. They might exist. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but that wasn't the group involved with inspecting it. It was the National Transportation Safety Board of the NTSB, and they came to their own conclusions. But he basically, what he did, and this is another Alinsky tactic, by putting together two situations and putting them side by side, it's like saying, well, I didn't eat a hamburger for lunch today, and the NASA space program is over budget. And you can try to compare the two. You say, Paul, well, what does one have to do with the other? Why are you bringing up your lunch order and the NASA space budget? Well, it has nothing to do with one another. So what he said there, and it was similar to what happened with Gabby Giffords. That was the Alinsky tactic he used there. He said, oh, well, Gabby Giffords was shot, and there's a bunch of teabaggers out there. So Gabby Giffords shot radicals who don't like government. Gabby Giffords shot radical teabagger Republicans who hate, and that's what they did. They just kept pairing the two together, even though they had nothing to do with one another. That's what's amazing. They had nothing to do with one another. Now, what happened in Minnesota, he continues on here. Go ahead.
Deteriorating. Well, how? So what? We cut transportation by another third.
Where's my teleprompter?
And what's going to happen to America? We're just going to have potholes everywhere? We're just going to have bridges collapsing everywhere?
There it is. Bridges collapsing everywhere because of a Republican budget. We're just going to have bridges collapsing and people dying. Yet another. And the fear-mongering is real, and I love it. I love it when conservatives go on TV, go on the radio, go on the internet, and they push back against anchors and reporters who say, well, that's not a real issue. The rhetoric is not a real. It's only real when it's Tea Party members or conservatives who have this harsh rhetoric. But when Barack Obama says that people will be killed because of a bridge collapse, because of Republican budgets, it goes overlooked. But when the mainstream media has something about, they don't say it. They don't bring this up. They don't want to say anything about it. But when a Republican puts on a sign, a Hitler mustache on Obama, is there a movement to kill Barack Obama in America? Coming up on Good Morning America. That's their whole purpose, is to deceive you into making you think there's one crazy side, but this side is rational. The Democratic Party is rational. How dare you? How dare you? Now, let's talk about the facts for a second, because he lied. Remember when that bridge in Minnesota collapsed? All those people on it? And I love how he says it in a sarcastic voice, talking about people dying. I mean, imagine if Bush did that. And there was a big, huge cry. How can this happen in America? Well, the National Society of Engineers, they looked at it. They gave us a D. Okay, so that's what Barack Obama said. A pretty good impersonation, right? The bridge collapse occurred because of a design defect. This is the conclusion reached by the National Transportation Safety Board, who works for Barack Obama. The bridge was designed and built in an era when engineers thought that redundant systems were both unnecessary and inefficient. Okay? Gusset plates installed at the time of the bridge's building were too thin and without any redundancy to account for a major failure on a single point. It was a tragedy waiting to happen from day one. It had nothing to do with lack of maintenance. In fact, the collapse happened because of scheduled maintenance to the deck that inadvertently destabilized it at the point of collapse. So they were doing federally funded maintenance on the bridge at the time it collapsed. So therefore, federal involvement in a bridge made it collapse and killed people. That's what happened. Barack Obama's federal government killed people in a bridge collapse. Give him the pork and beans for killing people on a bridge.
Beans right out of the can.
There you go, Barry. That's how that one works. I mean, it's this deception. It's this insane deception on the part of the left and the mainstream media that makes you think you have one side of the argument, one side of the debate, as being the psychopaths, as being the Tea Party conservative radicals. And then it's the other side, the mainstream media, the reasonable, and the left is the reasonable. When Barack Obama says people died because of lack of funding for a bridge and lies about it, they're not going to call him out on it. When Barack Obama or one of his colleagues or counterparts or whatever down lower in the chain in the federal government says that 70,000 children will die because of budgetary measures, and that's blood on the hands of Republicans, that's okay. When a representative from the Democratic side says Republicans hate women and they've been hating women for years and all they do is want women to die, that's okay. We don't need to don't talk about that. But when a Republican or a Tea Party member or something says something a little bit off color, well, then it's an entire group of people is insane.